Hello?
You like scary movies?
Uh-huh.
What's your favorite scary movie?
When Scream came out, it was just such a unique film.
Thanks, buddy.
It's interesting to have become part of this history of horror.
We knew we were part of something that felt like it was on fire. You know, there was something special about it, but you still never know. We had no clue, really, of the success that this movie would have.
The horror genre had kind of felt like it had been played out a little bit, and all of a sudden Kevin Williamson writes this script where he, poked fun at other horror films.
Not you, Fred.
And there was a lot of humor in it, and it was so scary. I just think it was a big part of pop culture.
I'm not sure there's a movie that actually holds up quite as well as the first Scream in particular. It's just such an insane creation.
Help me!
It's got everything you want when you go to a movie. It's not a singular thing. It's funny, it's scary, you're never not entertained, not once.
There's a formula to it, a very simple formula.
It's not only like a perfect homage and love letter to the horror genre in general, but it's so self-aware and funny, and it just puts everything you could ever want for like a pleasing movie experience all into one movie.
Stu was with me last night, okay?
Was that before or after he sliced and diced?
The way that Wes and Kevin did that iconic opening scene and marketing the entire movie as like Drew Barrymore's movie and then having her killed in the first 10 minutes. I think that shock factor, that's what made a lot of people love the franchise.
I want to play a game.
What kind of a game?
I wrote the script as my homage and love letter to Halloween.
Name the killer in Halloween.
No.
Come on, it's your favorite scary movie, remember?
It was the movie that did it for me, that made me want to be in this business. No one was making horror movies, but the genesis for just sort of that self-aware deconstruction of the horror genre came sort of as a result of me house sitting. I was house sitting for a friend of mine, and I walk into this the family room, and I see that the window's open. And I'm freaked out. I'm like, has this window always been open? I can't remember. So I go and I get a butcher knife, and I start walking around the house, and I call up my friend on the phone, and I'm like, okay, I think someone's in the house. And so he was on the phone with me, of course, going, kill, 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 scaring the mess out of me. And then we got confused about, Jason, and he started talking about Michael Myers is in the house. I'm like, no, that's Jason from Friday the 13th. And we got into this whole debate about serial killers from the movies. And that sort of was the spark.
As a kind of entry point to horror, it was also an encyclopedia of what was great about the genre. And I think that it was an introduction for someone like me who, wasn't a horror fan at the time. It introduced me to that universe.
You're starting to sound like some Wes Carpenter flick or something.
That movie scared the shit out of me, but not because of the creature or the monster that could have very easily been in every horror film, but the idea that horror is something that could be around any corner.
Is that you, Randy?
Let's be clear, what makes him so great is anybody can be Ghostface.
Ghostface doesn't feel like a person, it feels like this other being.
You can't see the face. That's what's so scary. All of these other horror villains, is that the right word? Even if they are wearing a mask, you can still see their body. You can't see anything of this person, their body or their face, which is terrifying. I remember the process of them finding that mask.
Creepy, huh?
No one could agree on a mask, and I remember we were on a location scout, and we found the Ghostface was in a box of stuff in a garage that we were location scouting, and we asked the owner if we could take it, because Wes immediately looked at it and said, this is like the famous Scream painting. And so we took that to our production, and we said, can you make something, riff on this, and see if you can make something like this? So they must have done 20 different designs, and every one of them was rejected by the studio, and finally we were like, why don't we just get the rights to this mask? Because in the script it did say it was a dime store Halloween mask. And so that's exactly what we found. When we made the first film, we actually sat around a bonfire one night. We're like, do you think if this has some success, there might be a costume? We're like, nah. Now it's there every Halloween.
Anything else you want, Wes Craven, director of this major motion picture?
I might start crying when we started talking about Wes. I felt his energy a lot during this filming.
I think where he's truly the most present is within our legacy cast members, because they have told us just all incredible stories.
I mean, Wes is such an incredible man. It was literally life-changing for me in so many ways. I remember the first time that I had to really scream. I don't know if I had been stabbed or been shot. I just remember saying, well, Wes, what happens? Like, you know, you've directed so many horror films. What happens? Like, what does it feel like when someone, he's like, Courtney, I don't know. It's never happened to me.
He had a twisted sense of humor, and he had a sweet, sweet soul. He gave me my first lead in a film, which I'm so grateful for, because these movies have done great things for all of us, you know?
He really is, you know, everything they say about him. He knows the genre inside and out. He knows when to pause. He knows when to, you know, move the camera. He just has it. It's instinctual. It was a masterclass in how to make a horror film by the master Wes Craven.
Wes really was groundbreaking, and Matt and Tyler wanted to honor him. They'd been touched by Wes's work and were huge fans of his.
You know, we were stepping into something that really had roots, and that it was our job to find a way to move it forward, but to also really be aware of and pay respect to what had come before. There have been a number of times where we're like, hey, what should we do with like this moment or this sequence or like this title even? And to have his work as a roadmap, you just go, well, what did Wes do?
Right.
And then you look at it and you go, oh, right, he did it perfect. Let's just do a version of that because it's
anything we got right in this movie is because of
We owe to Wes.
Yeah.
Ready, and action.
That first scream will, I think, be around forever and ever and ever. We always looked up to and looked back at as one of the great ones.
You're not scared, are you?